I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I think you can have both tendencies and put them into one practice. So initially I would say I'm an artist, but after spending 4 years in an industrial design program, I sort of balance between the two sides, between designing and manufacturing and industrial processes with artistic techniques. Yes, yeah, they do. I would say that they still have a traditional practice to some degree. Most of the freshman curriculum is still very traditional, but I think as the times have changed and globalization has occurred, they've sort of, especially the more technological departments, industrial design is one of them, they've sort of moved towards modern machinery and very new age machinery, things such as 3D printing, 3D modeling, CNC, things of that nature. I wasn't really knowledgeable in any of those fields prior to my time there, and it really wasn't until my junior year I think I really delved into sort of the machinery that was sort of around, but I hadn't been accustomed to. I took an investment casting class that taught me about 3D printing, especially 3D wax printing, and casting that in molds. And then from there on, I went through 3D printing, sort of plastic 3D printing, and then I went into CNC work. I actually spent about a year and a half in the glass department. So I was sort of balancing between the curriculums. It was difficult to do so because they're both departments are completely different mentalities. The industrial design department sort of is an influx of all this modern, very, very new age sort of idea of how to make products, how to make transportation systems, how to make things more viable, more eco-friendly. Well, the glass department's still in this idea of just how to make better ideas. And, they're very equipped at understanding the importance of materiality, which I think was a really important thing to learn. Glass itself, for example, is a very visceral and also difficult material to work with, even though it has so many possibilities. So through the Department of Glass, I started to understand sort of the conceptual side of things and processes, and it taught me not just trying to make the final product this eco-friendly or really great design, but also taught me the importance of the process of getting there and how it's all a story and all a narrative that should be exemplified in some ways. At the moment, I think my main motivation is coming up with concepts that are in some ways pertain to sort of what we're dealing with right now. Things that are, I think mass manufacturing is both good and bad. We've seen the good sides of things being manufactured, and we've also seen how we produce a lot of things now in China and countries in which we don't really have the same laws and sort of understanding of how things are made anymore. And I think it's important to tell people and make people understand where things come from and how things are made. And I think we've lost a lot of that. And I think that's sort of what I try to show in my work. With that said, I'm definitely interested in delving into sort of product development through concepts, but not necessarily sort of everyday, like make a spatula, or not sort of everyday components. I'm more interested in the sort of alternative thinking and, again, the story behind why I make something or why something is important or necessary. I think redesigning objects is definitely important. I think everything can be redesigned to some degree, but I think there's also a tendency to overwork things now and to overwork products because we have so much stuff. And I really care about boiling things down and also boiling things down to the most necessary components with materials that are come locally and things of that nature. I've been vastly interested, especially my last year at RISD, I became really interested in unseen forces or unseen phenomenons that we've sort of reproduced in digital ways. I think sound is a really good example of that because a lot of sound we have comes from recordings and all these, music is this huge industry. And I found it really interesting how sound is portrayed digitally as these waves, as these sort of oscillations. And, of course, it's exemplifying how sound is actually traveled, but it's not necessarily the same thing. It's sort of a symbol of that. So I really wanted to sort of take that symbol, those sound waves, and try to see if I could sort of bring the symbol into the 3D realm. Because sound itself is a 3D phenomenon. It's heard, it goes around, it has oscillations, but it also has vibrance and echo. And I wanted to sort of show that visually in a moment and sort of just stop it in that moment. And again, that sort of came from my interest of sort of telling a story and the conceptual mixed in with the design element, because I wouldn't have even known how to sort of create sound or try to if I hadn't learned about these processes that are more on the side of manufacturing and industrial. Because CNC machinery isn't necessarily a typical artistic tool, but I found it really relevant to what I was trying to show.